Okay, good afternoon, everyone. For those of you that don't know who I am, my name's Lee Monk. I'm an Assistant Relationship Manager at Active Essex, and I'm part of the team at Active Basildon. I'm joined today with colleagues Vicky Harris-King from Everyone Active, who's a Sports Development Officer for the Borough, and also Tracy Bromley, who's the Leisure Contracts Officer at Basildon Council. We're here today to talk about the Basildon Sports and Physical Activity Development Grant. And what we're going to do today's session, we've got about a half an hour presentation. We're going to go through the aims and outcomes of the grant scheme, the eligibility, the application form itself, the process when applying and what happens if you are successful. We're going to go through some top tips when applying and writing your application form. And then we'll offer a Q&A at the end, and then we've also got just a little bit, we'll touch on what further support is available from us at Active Basildon. I think it worked best if everyone just remains on mute for the duration of the presentation, as questions might arise as we go through the slides. And then if you would like to submit a question via the chat function, or feel free to unmute yourself at the end to ask a question, and hopefully either myself or Tracy will be able to answer any questions you have about the grant, and myself and Vicky any questions about Active Basildon. So slides today will be sent straight after today's session to you, so hopefully it will act as quite a good crib sheet for you if you put an application in, and we're also recording as well, so you can watch this back. Okay, so Active Basildon. So who are we? So if you don't know who we are one of 40 district networks set up across Essex, and we develop, coordinate and lead on sport and physical activity in partnership with Active Essex. We essentially try and aim to increase sport and physical activity participation. We work with local sports clubs, leisure centres, organisations, all across the whole system to promote physical activity, health and wellbeing. We work in local partnerships, and also, importantly for today's session, Active Basildon sit on a panel that is requested comments for all of Basildon Council's sports and physical activity development grant applications. So we see every application that gets put forward and are requested comments. So hopefully today we'll be able to give some top tips on kind of what we've seen already, what does get positive comments, and perhaps some best practice as well. So just before we start on that, if you haven't applied for a grant or a funding application before, or even if you have, it can be quite daunting and seem quite complicated. There's a number of points to an application form that you'll typically need to fill in or be able to evidence. But what I would say at this point is it's not as complicated as it seems, and if it's put out logically, you'll be able to put in a solid application form. And it shouldn't be too stressful. So hopefully after today, especially for this sports development grant, we'll make that a real logical process for you to follow. And hopefully if you do put in an application in, it will be relatively pain-free. So like any grant, and this isn't just for this one, so there's two key factors for why grants or bids fail. And there are two key factors in being successful, and they're quite simple actually. So the first one is simply, are you eligible for the fund? So the amount of applications that we'll receive that aren't actually from organisations or groups that aren't actually eligible for the fund is quite staggering actually. And at that point, you can save yourself a lot of time and bother by just checking if you are actually eligible to apply. And the other thing is, do you actually fit the criteria for what the fund is looking to achieve? So we're going to go through the criteria of the sports development grant today, its criteria, the guidance with that. So you'll be clear, hopefully by the end of today's session, that your idea or project does fit the criteria. You'll hit the two key factors for being successful. So the purpose of the sports development grant scheme in Basildon is to enhance the quality of life for residents in the borough by providing a range of sports events and activities for residents to participate in or attend. It aims to contribute to the social cohesion within communities by promoting activities which also counteract the isolation of individuals. It aims to provide opportunities for the personal development of individuals through the increasing of education, professional skills and creative abilities. It aims to enhance the borough's image and reputation for quality, innovation and enterprise at local, regional and national level by creating a positive image of the borough and engendering local pride. But its overall aim is to meet the council's leisure strategy aims and increase participation in sport and physical activity. So if you are applying, bear these in mind, as you will need to link back to them. Skip through. In terms of Basildon Leisure Strategy's aims, the Leisure Strategy aims to work with local health groups to ensure that the value of culture to the well-being of the community is integrated with overall health. Aims to promote more positive image of Basildon's towns, neighbourhoods and communities and engender community pride and well-being. To work in partnership with the voluntary, commercial and education sectors to ensure that cultural facilities and services are developed to meet the needs of the community. Aims to enhance the quality of urban and countryside open space. Aims to ensure that the cultural resources are widely accessible regardless of age, income, race, disability or other factors. It aims to investigate ways in which culture can positively contribute to the regeneration of physical and social infrastructure of Basildon. So I'm sure many people and groups on the call today will be able to demonstrate impact against strategy aims. So eligibility, with this particular funding scheme, there's two options to apply for. So you can apply as an individual or you can apply as a group. And groups can apply on behalf of individuals in their group or club. So for applications aimed at individuals, they must be living in the Basildon Borough. You can apply for up to £500. For groups and clubs, so you must be not-for-profit making. You can be a club, a society, a voluntary community organisation, but must be based in the Basildon Borough, and your membership must be open to the residents of the Basildon Borough. Now, what can you spend funding? If you're applying for an individual, we can fund through this scheme costs associated with events or pilot projects. You can fund specialist materials or equipment, and we can also fund workshops, tuition or training costs. What we wouldn't be able to fund is the cost of travel, accommodation, catering such as food and drink, and insurance costs. Now, in terms of groups, and a lot of today's content will be focused on groups because we typically get more applications from groups rather than aimed at individuals. We can fund new initiatives which will either enable more people to take part, enable those who are taking part to improve their level of skill, or to raise public awareness of your activity. We can fund costs associated again with events, facility or venue hire. We can fund specialist materials or equipment, similarly to new initiatives, pilot projects, publicity, and again, workshops, tuition or training. And again, we can't fund the cost of travel, accommodation, food and drink, insurance costs, or running or core costs. So kind of what your bread and butter is and what you're already doing. So the conditions to receiving a grant. So if you are successful, the grant must not be applied for to achieve financial gain. So for instance, if you attend a course which leads to paid work, so although you are able to apply for cost of say a training course or a coaching qualification, this must not lead to paid work. A good example of this would be if you're applying as an individual, you want to go on to a coaching course and then set up your coaching business, that would not be eligible for this. If you were a volunteer working in a community group or a sports club, looking to upskill yourself as a volunteer, then that would absolutely be fine. If you are successful, you must spend all the money on agreed items, agreed in your application only, and you must spend it within 6 months. And if you are successful, again, there's a really short and easy monitoring form you must submit again after 6 within 6 months of the funding being awarded. So that's what's needed in return for funding. Now, if you're a club applying for individuals, so you may have 3 talented athletes, for instance, that you want to apply for individual to support them individually. We can only fund through the scheme 3 per club per financial year. So currently we're running up to March 2021. And if you are a group or a club, along with your funding form, you must provide your constitution or your set of rules that evidences that your group is open to all and inclusive. Now, the application process, it's very simple. So here's some really useful links for you that you should check out after today's session. So on the web page there has all of these links, but there is an application form link there. It's a Word document, very simple to fill out, and we'll go through some of the sections on that in a second. And there's also a criteria for individuals and a criteria for groups. I suggest taking a read of them after today's session before you put in an application. When you're ready to apply, you need to email it to sportsdevelopmentgrants@basildon.gov.uk and include in the subject line sport and physical activity development grant application. This is where Tracy will pick it up, and in the back end we'll start the process at our end. In terms of the deadline to apply, it is a rolling deadline, so you can apply any time throughout the financial year. Now this is the official application process, but what I would say is before I go through the dates, don't let that put you off in terms of putting in an application earlier. So this is very much the worst case scenario in terms of timelines of what will be submitted. The likelihood is we could potentially process this sooner depending on how many applications we get in. So typically there's 4 rounds of assessment within each financial year. They occur in June, September, December and March. So our next deadline is December. It needs to be submitted by the 15th of December to be considered this time round. Now, once that's been submitted by the 15th of December, you will find out within a month of submitting that application if you've been successful or not. And you will also then receive any funding that you've been awarded within a month of that time. So worst case scenario at this point would be get an application in before the 15th of December. If you're successful, you'd find out by the 15th of January, and then money would be in your account by the 15th of February. Like I say, please don't let that put you off. The likelihood is that it can be processed much sooner than that if you have an idea ready to go. Then you obviously start your project or event, and then we'd require that monitoring form within 6 months of your application. The form itself, there's 11 sections to it on a Word document. I know that sounds a lot, but quite a few of them are tick boxes or just data entry for contact details of bank, etc. So I'm not going to go through them all, but I will focus a little bit on the aims and purpose of the organisation and the full description of the project or initiative, as these are your main written answers to the application. So for section 3, you'll be asked at the end of the organisation applying. So maybe you'll need something which will be open for all, and that will give the majority of the answer for this question. I will also suggest in that box offering a little bit of a summary of who you are. So it could be you as an individual, if you're applying as an individual, or it could be you as a group or sports club. So give a brief summary of who you are. Just a brief explanation as to why you exist, some of the members or the reach or some of the work you do as an organisation currently, the actual activities you deliver, and just let us know as a panel kind of what the benefit received is from your audience and being involved in your group. And I'm sure there are many, but do let us know. And then also at this point, I'd suggest telling us what your future ambitions as a club or group are, and that is likely to lead into why you're applying for funding here, and that will lead nicely into the next section. So tell us what your future ambitions are. Now, section 4 is your main kind of written answer for the application form, and this is where the majority of the information in your application will go. So the question itself asks, what is your idea or project? We suggest, just to start with, a real basic statement of what you plan to do and why you're asking for funding. And a general top tip here is just be very specific, just key points only. You don't need to waffle and try to avoid generalising. So you could be, for instance, Basildon Multi-Sports Club, and you're looking to expand your offer by targeting over 65s and PSC, or you might be looking to deliver virtual exercise classes to your existing members and new families. I won't read through all of them, but there's some other examples of what you're aiming to do. And they're quite specific. So we've got a target audience of over 65s in the place of PSC, for instance. So it's a good starting position of what you're planning to do. Once you've done that, we'll need to see some evidence of demand that it needs to happen. So suggest, and with all of this application, feel free to bullet points are absolutely fine writing funding applications, as long as the information in there is correct and we see what we need to see. So use these questions as a bit of a template for your application. That'll be absolutely fine. So in terms of evidencing your demand, tell us, why does this need to happen? There may be a problem that you're trying to solve, highlighted to get some funding to try and solve. And typically when you try evidence of demand, and this is quite true of a lot of funders now, especially with the National Lottery, community engagement is encouraged. So if you can evidence that you have spoke to your local community, you spoke to members, you spoke to kind of local people, and they have had some involvement in creating this offer or what you're planning to do or trying to achieve, that is definitely encouraged, and I would say it's a good piece of best practice moving forwards, especially if you're looking at other grants and other funding opportunities. So where you can evidence that, that is definitely encouraged, and it certainly is for this grant. So once you've shown your evidence of demand, you then need to move into what you're actually going to deliver, or the problem you're going to address from the evidence of need or demand that you've just proven. A really easy way to structure this is to just use the 5 W's and how as a way of structuring your answer. So just tell us, what does it look like, what you're actually trying to deliver. It's a good opportunity to just expand from your summary a little bit there. Tell us who your audience is, who's going to benefit. Again, be quite specific with that. When is this project or event or initiative going to take place? How long is it going to be? And tell us a few key milestones in your idea or project that you need to hit along the way. Where will it take place, of course? And then in terms of why, you should have already covered this in the evidence of need, so you won't need to go into too much detail of why. And then finally, importantly as well, how will you make this happen, and how are you going to make this happen and provide results from this project or idea. Finally, for this section, every funder wants it, and it's sustainability. So you need to explain here what's going to happen after the funded period. So obviously it's a small amount of funding, or up to £1,000 or up to £500. So what is going to happen once that money has been spent? And also it's a good point here to remember to look back to the leisure strategy and the aims and outcomes of the grant. So in this application, you'll need to refer back then how your idea, project or initiative is helping Basildon Council hit their leisure objectives. In terms of costing and funding and value for money, again, every funder likes value for money. So you'll need to give, in this part of the application form, the total cost of your project or initiative, as well as the amount of grant that you've requested. So your total cost for the project might be £2,500 that you've requested £1,000 from Basildon Council to help it happen. There's a question there that asks, have you already approached others for funding, and have you had any success? You won't be penalised if you have or haven't, but it's a good question to ask, because it's likely that Active Basildon as well, if you are unsuccessful or do need more than £1,000 may be able to either signpost or support you with other funding applications as well as this one. So, like I say, you won't be penalised for that, so just be honest there. You'll then be asked to enter a line-by-line cost of what you're going to spend any grant funding on. So do that there. And like I said, every funder wants value for money, so how can you show this? So you may be able to say in this section that you've received or covered a number of different quotes. And then there's also linking back to the strategy, and you can perhaps make an argument for saying, if you invest this small amount of funding, then you'll have savings later on, or that there will be longer term benefits past the funding period. Also, if you do have match funding or you've contributed something towards the project as well, then that is preferred, but doesn't exclude you if you haven't. And that is again similar to quite a few funders actually. So that's the actual application form. So before you apply, just some top tips. Make sure you read the guidance, rules and criteria. So you've got links back in the previous slide. So do take a look at them links. Make sure you read them and read them again. Make sure you give the application form the time and respect it deserves. We have seen quite a few applications which are clearly only taking 2 or 3 minutes to write for £1,000. So obviously, please give it the time and respect it deserves and give us the information that we need to be able to make it successful. We obviously want you to be successful and want this. If you are in the fortunate position that you're not a one-man band or a lonely volunteer and you can draw on some support from others, then please do. It is a good piece of best practice to try and share it with at least one other person, even just to proofread. Make sure you read the question carefully. You don't need to wander away or waffle or over-exaggerate what you're going to deliver. Like I say, use bullet points, and that's worked for the Active Essex Foundation when putting in funding applications before as well. So certainly consider using bullet points to write your answers. And just be honest and tell your story. You don't need to emphasise, like I said, we're not expecting you to make every person in Basildon active from your project from this. We just want you to have, you obviously want impact for the funding, but you don't need to overemphasise this. Like I said, contributions to the overall costs and projects are preferred, but it won't make you ineligible to apply if you can't. And one thing that doesn't actually happen too often is actually, if you do have an idea or do have any questions, make sure you contact the funder before applying. And that's not just us, but it's for any kind of funding application you put in. It's always worthwhile just picking up the phone and giving the funder a call to find out if they have any particular priorities or things they're looking to gain from the application form that might not be in the criteria, or things that would be perhaps preferred or prioritised over other things. So just put together some scenarios that may be funded, obviously COVID secure, because a few of these relate to events. And so we might be able to fund through this or pass on positive comments for applications from a club that currently can't deliver face-to-face sessions, so set up Zoom sessions to ask for set-up costs and coaching fees for a period of time. You might be a club that requires a specific piece of equipment for a talented athlete, and this purchase will allow them to deliver additional sessions for them. You may be a club or group or a group looking to target a new audience, and you're now going to work in partnership with another group and you want to pilot a new idea or some activities working together. You may be a club that has evidence of demand for some new beginners or get into sessions from your local community, so you've requested some seed funding to set that up. This particular example we have actually funded in the past, so a walking group wants to also deliver running sessions, so they apply for the costs of their volunteer walk leaders to become run leaders as well. I won't read the rest of them, but there's a few more examples there, but that's not excluding other examples that aren't on there. Some scenarios that will unlikely be funded. So alternative athlete requires money for a train ticket and an overnight stay for a training camp. That's two things in the criteria that we wouldn't be able to support. A club asks for hall hire or facility hire for their training sessions. Now, remember in the criteria that it does say that we will fund hall hire or venue hire, which we will, and pitch hire as well. But that would be deemed core costs or running costs if you're just applying for what you already do already as a club. So if you're, for instance, a football club that hires a 3G pitch on a Tuesday night and you ask for us to pay for that for the next 10 weeks, it's the same audience and it's what you do as a club already, that's not something we would look to support. If it was for a new audience, or you've only have, say, a quarter of the pitch and you've got a waiting list, or you now need to expand the amount that you're offering, then that's something we might be able to support. A club has asked for a new kit for an existing team. That's not something we'd be able to fund through the scheme. Applicant requests funds for pitch maintenance that they don't have a lease for, or for land that they don't own. That's not something we'd be able to support for this. And a club applies for more than £1,000, or an individual applies for over £500, and it wouldn't hit our criteria. We've seen quite a few applications that do go over the £1,000 or over the £500 for an individual, so please stick to them where you can. So that's the Basildon Sports Development Grant Scheme. Feel free to put some questions in the chat and we'll do a Q&A just at the end of this slide. But before we go on, I think now's a good chance for Vicky, if you're on the call, to unmute yourself and just say hello. So Vicky King is the Sports Development Officer for Basildon Borough, and does a lot of great work across the district and also coordinates Active Basildon. So I'll quickly pass over to Vicky to say hello quickly.
Hi everybody, lovely to see you all today. Some of you I recognise, have crossed paths with before, some of you are completely new to me. As Lee really nicely introduced me, I'm the Sports Development Officer for Basildon. I'm somewhat unique in that I sit within the council's leisure contract, so I work for Everyone Active, who run Basildon Sporting Village, Eversley Leisure Centre in Pitsea and Wickford Swim and Fitness Centre. Some of you, I'm aware, I may have spoken to previously about facilities, so actually using space within the leisure centres, but also I have a community remit, hence my work with Active Basildon. So if my face is new to you, Lee will circulate my email address, so if you want to catch up, tell me what your club's doing. Knowledge is power. The more I know that's going on, hopefully the more I can help everyone out. Equally, I'm one of the people that if you've got an idea for the sports development grant, if you want to just kind of chat that through, you're more than welcome to get in touch with me. Or if you have any other ideas or other people you want to work with, I may be able to put you directly in touch with others, but I work with quite a good network of people. So if I can't, or I don't have the answer, then I should be able to kind of find someone who does. Thanks, Lee.
Thank you, Vicky. Just to add to that as well, with Active Essex, so we can help signpost to other funds that aren't, if you've listened to today and you have an idea or potentially looking for things that aren't eligible through the scheme, we can help signpost to other funds. Also on our website, we've collated all of the latest club development templates and advice, some CPD, some insight and data that might help you understand your communities or audiences better, and all the latest government advice is all there as well. Finally as well, we have Active Essex, and both Active Essex and Sport England are coming to the end of our current strategy periods. So our current strategy, Changing 1 Million Lives to Get Essex Active, comes to an end in March 2021. So we are now starting a consultation period for what our future strategy looks like past March 2021. We have a groups and clubs session next Wednesday, 6 till 7:15. We've got the head of clubs from Sport England on the call, as well as some of my colleagues from Active Essex as well. So that's a free session. If you'd like to come and have your say and hear from other groups and clubs in Sport England, then please book your place there. And finally, get in contact. Our door's always open, as is Vicky's, and Tracy, who's also on the call as well. If you do have any questions, like I say, kind of in the top tips for applying for funds, just give us a call or get in contact and we'll be able to answer any questions you have. So there's our contact details. Tracy, I don't know if you want to quickly say hello as well, if you are on the call.
Hi Lee, yes, I'm here. Hello everyone, thank you for coming today. Yeah, so I'm Tracy, I'm the Leisure Projects Officer for Basildon Council, and a part of my role is to administer the sports development grants, as Lee has kindly been through with you today, giving you some sort of top tips for applying. I'm sort of the first point of contact really for this, or Vicky or Lee or Juliet at Active Essex can also give you some pointers and some advice. I'll be the person that receives your application form. From that point on, I will review that initially. It then goes to the Active Essex board, Active Basildon board, who then also review that, feed back any comments to me regarding the application. I then take all those into account, and the final decision for whether the application is successful or not is actually made by our committee chair for the Neighbourhoods and Public Spaces Committee, who at present is Councillor Harrison. So yeah, just to give you an overview of the actual process of the application process once I receive your form. Thanks, Lee.
Thanks a lot for that, Tracy. We've had a couple of questions in the chat before we start off. I think we've got a little bit of time. So if you do have a question, pop that in the chat, or you can unmute yourself in a second. So if we've had an application rejected, is there a period of time you have to wait until you can apply again for a different project? I would say no. I think if it is a different project, then you're more than welcome to apply again as long as you're eligible. Is that correct, Tracy?
Yeah, that's correct. So what we say is any successful applications, you would then not be able to apply for the rest of that financial year. To put in another application, you would have to wait until the beginning of the next financial year, which obviously is April. Any unsuccessful funding applications, obviously, we would welcome a further application, like Lee says, if it is for something different, a different project, or maybe you want to expand on the initial application and just give us a bit more detail around how it is you're meeting the aims of our strategy. Thank you.
Tracy.